Hi, I'm Mike Scrutton. I'm the Director of Print Technology and Strategy for Adobe, and I'm going to spend some time talking to you about the move from design to print. What we've learned from the last 30 or 40 years of creative workflows, how we've transitioned to a world of creating stuff digitally, and how we're moving to print stuff digitally with the power of PDF. We're going to look at some of the tools and experiences that we've gained. When I started my career in 1992, this was how we tended to work. I used an Apple Mac and we would use a product like Adobe Illustrator and we'd create PostScript files and send them to a film setter ready for turning into film and onwards into making metal plates that we'd hung on a printing press. And when we were designing with a particular product in mind. It might have been a flyer or a brochure or a magazine or something, but we would create this on our screen and we would create a file specifically for that particular product. And when we knew that we were ready to go to print, we would send files from our Macs to a very specific device. We were using Adobe PostScript, but we create PostScript specific for that particular device so it could then be manufactured using a particular process, maybe a 4-color printing press like this. It was a closed network. It was a closed solution. We knew exactly what we were going to be making, how we were going to make it, and we prepared our files accordingly. Now, what happened over a period of time, by the end of that decade, we'd actually moved away from this very, very tightly coupled solution. The tools we were using had expanded, Adobe InDesign had come along, and traditionally a lot of us were using PDF as a way of creating those files ready to be printed. And one reason for doing this is that it might have been printed using a myriad of different technologies. At that time, metal plate makers were beginning to come out. So rather than having to create a film and then use that film, develop it, and expose it onto a metal plate, we could image those plates directly and electronically using a solution that would take PDF and print those. And the same began to be true as well from the digital technologies that were emerging. There's one here. All these boxes are beige, you'll notice, right? But the early digital printers would take these PDF files and produce the product on those devices digitally without the need for metal plates or an intermediate process. But whether we were printing using metal plates or printing digitally, PDF was a great enabler, but enabled us to capture the content that I created as a designer on my desktop machine and transfer that to a way that could be manufactured. Now, around the end of that decade, beginning of the next, the web began to emerge, right? People started creating content for the web. And our designer here is walking down the street, looking at her phone, thinking about how she might be designing for any number of different output media. And that's traditionally what's happened over the last 25 years. Designers have taken their ideas, but once upon a time, I was tethered to a desktop, I was tethered to an office, and now we can be creative anywhere and think about creating things for any type of product. And that's led to the emergence of many, many different combinations of design and product and how we create those designs. So rather than this being a one-to-one relationship now, people can create using any number of different devices in any number of different places. Maybe when they're on the go in the street, or when they're sitting in a cafe, or when they're sitting at their office desks. The places where we design has evolved. And also the idea that that design that we're making might get reproduced on any number of different products, whether that's stationery or packaging, or maybe I'm creating a business card, gift wrap, even soft goods like apparel or giftware such as mugs. We can take a design and we can reproduce that in any number of different places. So commonly, one of the things that people would do today is take those designs and offer them for sale on different types of products. Here's a screen grab from a website for a company which is Zazzle. And at Zazzle, they allow people to upload their artwork, and you can turn that artwork into any number of different things. Yes, you can create stationery, you can create business cards, you can create gift wrap. You might use that for a shower curtain. You might use it on a tie or on a pair of leggings or even on a skateboard. The idea that we would take a design that somebody has come up with and reproduce it on any number of different types of product. And think about it. Those products means we're using different types of substrate. Some of these are fabric, some of these are paper, some of them might even be vinyl or a plastic. And the number of different print techniques that we're using, of course, also has a myriad of different types. It's not that one-to-one paradigm now between what I saw on my screen, what I intended to manufacture, and one particular process of how I'm going to do that. So not only has the type of relationship between our designs and our products changed, but the tools that we're using have changed as well. Whereas previously we might have been tethered to desktop applications, now we're at a myriad of other applications which are available that we can use on the go. We might use Adobe Express on our laptops, we might use it on a mobile phone. But Adobe Express allows people to create that content wherever they are, wherever they have that inspiration, and easily create exciting artwork. Sometimes they're doing that without a lot of skill. They don't have to go to college to learn how to use one of these desktop applications. They can just pick up a web browser and be designing very, very quickly. But one of the things that's very, very important here is that the PDF files that I can export from a product like Adobe Express are PDF X4 compatible. They're ready to go. I can print them right away, just as I could have done back in 1999 when I was using my desktop device. And whether you're using one of these newer types of application, like Adobe Express, or whether you're using one of these traditional applications like Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign, we can create and standardize on the idea of using PDF as a format for print. So let's ask ourselves, why is it that PDF has become this exciting and this important to us? At the heart of it, the real reason is that PDF allows us to preserve the information in its original form at the highest level of abstraction. We've not thrown any information away. And we can capture that PDF in a device-independent format, like a PDF X4 file. If we think about what enables this and what's made PDF so popular, there are a couple of core technologies which enable us to do this. The first one is that fonts are stored within a PDF file exactly using the typography and information about the font that we're using. We can store text in a way that allows us to search that document, to change the spelling of that document, to translate that document, but also to print it faithfully. Because within a PDF X4 file, we're going to be storing not just the text that we want to print, but also the font that we're going to use. The font that is going to be used to reproduce that text is stored within the PDF X4 file. So we know we can reproduce it faithfully on any device. If we move beyond text to artwork, vector work, we store that vector work within a PDF file with absolute precision. The curves that I'm using, the strokes that I'm using, the brushes that I'm using, the colors that I'm using for those particular strokes and vector work is all stored within that PDF file, completely separately to the text. All right, the text is retained as a font. The vector and the artwork is reproduced as a vector within the PDF file, so I can use that at any size. Similarly, the photography that we have for images within a PDF file are stored as exactly as they come off the camera. So whether I'm looking at a bird here and I want to print it life size, or ever want to zoom in and I want to see the feathers on the hummingbird's chest, if I store that image inside the PDF file at full resolution, the same data that came off the camera, then I keep the versatility of that artwork, the versatility of that design, and use it later on in my production workflow. So we're storing these three core elements of text, vector, and photo within a PDF file. But we're also storing color information at the same time. And we don't just have to express that color information in one particular format. We can define it in the most appropriate format for that particular piece of artwork. So maybe we do want to describe some elements of color in terms of CMYK, the printing primaries that are going to be used at reproduction time. But maybe it's more appropriate to store some color information in terms of RGB. Data that came off that camera, for example, is based on light. So storing it in terms of RGB makes a lot more sense. But if I'm talking about a brand color, I might want to store that brand color to represent my logo in yet another way. Or indeed, if I actually want to be very, very accurate about how this color is going to be produced, I might want to store spectral information. Spectral information is a definition that defines a color in terms of the wavelengths of light that would be used, that you would see when you're referring to that color. It's a unique way of reproducing this color across a wide variety of different media. So however you're storing color information with PDF file, all this can coexist with the text, with the vector, and with the photo. Now, when it comes to combining this information, what's so important is that by preserving it in this way, our PDF file is device independent. It doesn't matter if I'm going to turn that into primaries for an offset press to CMYK primaries, or whether I'm going to print this digitally using digital equipment, or whether I'm going to beyond CMYK using 5th, 6th, 8th, a 12th color in some cases in terms of reproducing textiles. The information within a PDF file can be stored in such a way we can reproduce this on any device. And because we're preserving all this information, it means that the output can be scalable. Yes, I might be able to reproduce this imagery on a postage stamp, but I might also be able to print it on a poster, something that would go on a bus shelter. Heck, I can even wrap the bus, I could wrap a building. By keeping all this information within the PDF file, we can reproduce it at any size because there's no data loss. We've not optimized for a particular type of product. We keep that intent within the PDF file, we can reproduce it at any size. And then another important thing, which was one of the things which enabled the digital printing revolution, is the idea that a PDF file is page independent. What you see on one page is not affected by what you've seen on a previous page. If you think about if you're looking through a PDF file on your phone, you're scrolling through the pages, all the information for one page is stored separately to the information of another. You can go forwards, you can go backwards as you read this PDF file. Well, that's also very true and important when it comes to printing. Unlike printing on a desktop printer where I might print pages 1 through 12, 1 through 4 in a particular sequence because that's how I'm going to read it, that's how I'm going to print it. More importantly, that's how I'm going to print it. When I actually want to print this commercially, I might need to lay out the pages in a particular order or change some of the orientations so that I can actually print them on a larger sheet because I'm going to be cutting them up and folding them later on. PDF allows us to reproduce these pages in any order, which is really important for commercial printing. So those are some of the reasons why PDF has been very, very popular in this industry, because of this way of preserving this information in its original form at the highest level of abstraction. And PDF X4 as a standard within the PDF family allows us to do this in a way which is perfect for printing. So let's think about a couple of use cases where we can benefit from using PDF in print workflows. Many of us are looking to diversify our offerings when it comes to printing. Many of us are used to the idea of printing our artwork or our customers' artwork on paper. But what if you want to diversify? What if you want to offer some of these additional products, what we talked about earlier, maybe giftware or apparel? PDF is really, really applicable in the world of printing on textiles. The illustration in the center shows how we might want to produce a motif, in this case a unicorn, on a variety of different products. Maybe I just want to put it on the pocket of my polo shirt. Maybe I want to use it all over on a adult's t-shirt or on a child's t-shirt, maybe at a slightly different size. I might even want to reproduce it on a baby's onesie. But because we've got all this information in the PDF file, we can reproduce that same piece of artwork at any size. We don't have to go back and redo the artwork to print it on a different type of product. Also true within the textile space is that not all of these substrates that we're printing on, the fabrics we're printing on, behave the same way. I might need to use a different printer or a different device to print on a cotton t-shirt versus a man-made fiber. If I'm printing on a polyester, for example, I might need to use a completely different device. That device might have different treatments for how it's reproducing the CMYK, different inks, different coatings, but we might need to use to pre-treat the fabric. If I'm printing on a black polo shirt, for example, I might need to put something behind the artwork in order to, a white, for example, to make the colors pop. But we can do all this because of the flexibility we have in that same PDF file, which we can use to print on any of these different types of garment. In some cases, if we were printing apparel, we might actually want to be printing the pattern pieces that are used for a jersey, for example, for a sports jersey. If you have to be printing artwork for a whole team of football players, for example, you might want to have the outlines of where you would cut those patterns in order to actually assemble the final garment. We can store that same information within the PDF file. Okay. Colors we can describe in this unambiguous way, particularly important if we're using different inks and reproducing it on different substrates. And like we've said and asserted already, because we can print a complex design that includes vectors, text, and images, it's even more important that we're preserving that information within the PDF file. First of all, it means that the file can be very efficient. We can apply the right level of compression, the way we can store the files and keep them in a file system efficiently. But more importantly, we can reproduce those designs at any scale, any grade of garment. And in the special case where we're printing repeating print over a large width or maybe an infinite length of fabric, we can also be very efficient because we only have to store that information once and we can reproduce it across whatever length of fabric we choose. So PDF has many benefits in the world of textiles. Beyond textiles, there's some other areas which we're looking at here at Adobe as well, which is in the world of embellishments. What if we want to take a design from a customer and we want to reproduce that maybe using CMYK, but what also if we wanted to take that same design and print it using foils or varnishes? It's very easy to do this by using a PDF file. There's a project we're working at Adobe at the moment called Project Goldsmith. And one of the things that Project Goldsmith allows us to do is to think about how we would prepare these files in an automated manner without an operator or a designer having to do a lot of additional work. And we think of this in terms of two different workflows. The first is where the designer has some sort of intent. Right? They're using an application to signify this part of this file I would like to be treated in a particular way. Right? Maybe they have a way of specifying that the heart should be done with a foil, or that the text should be reproduced either with a metallic, maybe some sort of varnish. There are ways that we can use conventions, if you like, that we've used within these our desktop applications traditionally to convey that intention through the PDF file. But one of the things we're also aware of is there may be situations where a customer never thought about applying an embellishment. Either they don't have a way of specifying it, or it just never occurred to them that they maybe use a capability that their printer has to apply a varnish or a metallic to the output. So Project Goldsmith has been designed to automate this preparation. This preparation for somebody who wanted to take a design and actually put it into a print workflow could be very, very, very time consuming. But if I want to actually make something which has a foil incorporated within it, rather than spending minutes, hours even, as a pre-press operator at our print site to try and modify the customer's file, we're looking to automate the process so that that time is not required and we can automatically print using whatever technology we have. And there are a myriad of different technologies which are widely used in the embellishment space to provide added features such as metallics and varnishes. In some cases, there's a technology where you might need to print the CMYK first and then take your file, take your press sheets to another device and apply a metallic. And that separate device will require a separate PDF file, separate setup, separate instructions. We're able with Project Goldsmith to take one source document from the designer and automatically prepare the right PDF file for the right equipment, however they're being used within the workflow. Now, if we're in a situation where we're using a digital metallic toner or a digital ink, we might be able to print the silver or the gold on a fifth or a sixth station within our device. But again, we can prepare a file so it's got the right information for that sort of device. There are other technologies, for example, using toner-based digital foiling, which requires a separate file just using a black toner, for example, to be prepared and printed. And then a process is used to actually make the metallic adhere to wherever we printed black, as a precursor to taking another PDF file where we print CMYK over the top. And there's yet another technique which actually allows us to use foil substrates. So maybe we print on a metallic foil, but need to put white down to remove some of the areas, to hide some of the areas, so that we can then print CMYK over the top. Again, Project Goldsmith is designed so that any of these processes can be fully automated using information that exists in a PDF file. So maybe when you're offering this for sale on your commercial website as a print service provider, you might be able to take this job that you receive from your customer and charge them for it. But maybe there's an opportunity to upsell. Maybe there's an opportunity to enable them the same file without having to explain to them how they're going to use it. Take that file and use it for output, and you can charge more money for that because they're willing to pay more for that more tactile, more visual, more emotive experience. Now, all this is made possible by the power of PDF. And at Adobe, we have many tools that are available to cover the entire spectrum of the workflow, all the way from creation in our creative applications in Creative Cloud, through the managing of a PDF file with products like Adobe Acrobat, through the Adobe PDF print engine, which is our flagship product, which is used by many manufacturers around the world for the rendering of the PDF files so that it can be turned into real products, whatever the substrate, whatever the product. So maybe we're doing packaging, maybe we're doing labels, maybe we're doing something that's in an industrial like the front of a dishwasher, maybe we're printing fabric. And of course, we can print our traditional commercial type jobs or brochures, books, where we're printing on paper. So PDF is powerful for all these use cases. If you'd like some more information, you can receive it at any of these links. If you'd like to know more about Adobe Express, there's a link here. And if you'd like to find out more about what we're doing in the world of embellishment in the future, you can join us at this link below and you can find some more information. Thanks for your time today. It was great talking to you and I look forward to seeing you in the future.